morning all. Well, morning, afternoon, good day, what have you. Got a little side project I'm kind of working on. Main project I'm working on is I'm converting my Honda over to LED lighting, and I'm currently making up all my own LED lights. A little side project I'm working on is I need a power supply to run everything. And I'm going to be using about 800 LEDs roughly in the lighting project I'm working on. And instead of buying a lot of wall warts and everything else, I thought I would get ingenious and use a computer power supply to run everything. Now I've done a little bit of research on the net, found some how-tos on how to convert computer power supplies over to use them for 12 volt, 5 volt power supplies, and asked a lot of questions. I'd like to thank first off Pat from Dead Things Yard Hunt and Hall Staff off of YouTube. Both of them are off of YouTube. Did a lot of talking with them, and they kind of ran me through things and gave me some additional information and stuff. But wanted to do a quick vlog on how to convert over a computer power supply. So I've got two going right now. Originally, this is what the finished project pretty much looks like when you get done with it. It should look something like this depending on what type of rails you end up using, and there's several different types and different types of hookups, but that is a computer power supply. Now, while it may look nice, there is a problem with it. This is an old power supply I had pulled years ago, and it's been sitting on a shelf. I didn't know if it worked or not, so I went ahead and did the project with it anyway. Got it finished, plugged it in, and found the power supply was bad. It doesn't work. So I'm going to be redoing the project here with this power supply. And this one I did plug it in and check it. I pulled it out of an old computer that still worked, and we were getting ready to scrap. So I do know this power supply does work. So what I'm going to be doing, I wanted to show you kind of what a finished project looked like and what one starting looks like, and I'll go through some of the different stages and stuff that need to be gone through in order to do this project. So here we go. First step on the project is if you're pulling a power supply out of a computer to use, before you pull it out, plug the computer in, make sure the power supply works. That's your first step. Second step, after you get it out of the computer, you need to go through and clean up this wiring here. So what I'm going to do is just basically take a pair of nippers and cut off the plugs, cut off any zip ties on there so all the wires are free. I've gotten all the connectors, little zip ties and what have you off the wires, and you end up with a mess like that. I've also gone through and taken the cover off the power supply itself. Now if you're using an old used power supply, I suggest taking some canned air and going through the power supply and giving it a good blowing out. Now your next chore that you need to do is you need to separate the wires, because there's probably 50 different colors of wires. The wires you want to keep are the solid black, solid yellow, and the solid red. So you have three colors. And that's just a matter of kind of sorting wires and getting in here, clipping them off and taping them up. And I'll go over what the different colored wires I just told you to keep, what they are. I've got my wires segregated out. I got my reds, my blacks, and my yellows, which are the wires I need. This rainbow mix of wires up here, you will not need. So the simple step on these is just to snip them back, and then if you've got some liquid electrical tape or just regular electrical tape, wrap the ends up so the wires aren't exposed, and then just kind of tuck them inside out of the way. Now on these, the red, the black, and the yellow wires down here, yellow is usually 12 volt, your 12 volt power supply. The reds are not 12 volt, yeah, it'll be 12 volt. The reds are 5 volt, and your blacks are your neutral. Now, as to the number of wires that you have coming out of your power supply, that will vary from power supply to power supply depending on the wattage and the brand and the model. This one I'm working on with now is a 500 watt power supply, to where this one here was I believe it was a 350 watt power supply. It had a lot less wires. The higher the wattage, the more wires that you get. Now basically what I'm going to do is, I've got a third rail I'm going to be using. Is after you got these cut and tapered back, you need to count out, depending on the type of terminals that you're going to be using on here, you need to make sure you have enough wires. So what I'm going to do is, this is a 8-prong rail. I'm going to use that for my reds. I'm going to use this long big one here off of this power supply for my yellows, and then this small one here, which is also a 12 slot rail, for my blacks. Any extra wires I have that won't be going into those rails will be getting snipped off with these and taped up and tucked out of the way, with the exception of 2 wires. I need to save one extra red wire and 1 extra black wire, because there's another step that you have to do with this power supply, and you'll need an extra red and an extra black. So that's my next step. And on these terminals or rails, you do not have to use these if you don't want this style. There are, it all depends on what you're going for. For me, for my lighting needs, I want to use the rails. But there are several different options and stuff that you can use with them. You can get these down at Radio Shack. They're $6 and under, roughly, at Radio Shack. So my next step right now is I'm going to start snipping wires, getting them wrapped with electrical tape, and figuring out which wires I need to use off of the red, the black, and the yellow. So that'll be my next step. Okay, one other thing I need to point out, and I forgot to mention, is one of the wires that you cut off, use this here. This green one here you'll cut off. You're going to need to use that too, so make sure you strip it back and hook it up with one of your black wires. Here, if you do not do that, your power supply will not turn on. So just strip back the green, cut down the black, strip it back, wrap the 2 wires together, put a couple of drops of solder on to make sure they stay attached, and then make sure you cover it with some black tape as well. Once you get that done, you can take your sandbar resistor and start getting that hooked up, and I'll show you a little bit more on that here in just a second. Right now I'm getting ready to solder that connection right there. We've gotten all our unnecessary wires that we don't need snipped, and they're covered with electrical tape. I've got the green wire. In fact, here, let me get a good pointer to use because it's hard to see in there. I've got the green wire here attached to a black wire, which you probably really can't see too much, and it's covered with electrical tape. I've got my sandbar in here. It's connected to a red wire and a black wire, and I got it attached to the grill in the back, so it'll get a lot of air because that will get hot. At this point, all the work on the inside of the power supply is finished. Now, before you button it back up, another thing you've got to do too is, depending on what type of fittings you want to use up on top, to hook everything up, you need to pre-drill holes into the lid and buy some of these little zip ties and run through the holes. Once you get to that point, you can seal this back up. We've so far we have opened up the inside of the power supply. We've attached, I think you can see it there, that little white rectangle, sandbar resistor in there. We've attached a black wire and to the only green wire inside the power supply. We've attached those together, and then we've gone through and we've sorted out the red wires, the black wires and the yellow wires, which are basically 5 volt, 12 volt, and black being your ground or neutral wire. And we've snipped all the other wires off the power supply. All the wires that we snipped have had electrical tape wrapped around them, and they're tucked away inside. You won't need them. Now for this stage, you're going to need, and I prefer using these. Other people use different, you can use different type of connectors. I prefer using this. This is a 12-shot rail connector, and I've got 2 8-shot rail connectors. And basically all you're going to do, if you remember right, we drilled some holes in the top and inserted these zip ties. Well, you basically just take these, set them into place up there, and put your zip ties around them to hold them in. Okay, I've got them all attached using the little zip ties. You know, and after you get them attached, cut off your extra little bit on the zip ties, which I've done. Now your next step is, and I guess I should explain first, the 2 short rails here, this one and that one, are going to be for my 5 volt section of the power supply, while the 2 long ones are going to be for the 12 volt power supply. That way I can tell them differently, and I'm also going to label them on the case too after I get all the wires attached. But your next step is to take every wire by wire, and run it to where you want it, snip it, bear the wire back a little bit, and put it inside your terminal and attach it down. When you're doing these larger ones, when you go to do that, the wire might be a little bit too small for the coupler, so I recommend putting a drop of solder on the bare wire portion, which is what I'm going to be doing here. And I'll thicken them up a little bit so they'll make better connection inside the bigger connectors here. But now you just do it wire by wire. Stretch each wire into place, cut it, strip it, and attach it. And you just do that all the way down the bar, and just do bar by bar until you get everything attached in. Okay, I've gotten started connecting the wires. I chose to do the reds first. As you can see, I'm going from the back of the computer up here and into the terminal. Is this finished? No. The other thing I'm going to end up doing, and I'll do it once I get all the wires connected, is I'm going to put a drop. I'm going to pull each of the wires down to the lid, and I'm going to put a drop of hot glue on them to help hold them into place, so they're not kind of sticking up, and if they get snagged and stuff, you know, they don't get ripped out. I'll do that with each wire. We'll get a drop of hot glue, and I'll do that after I get all the wires connected up. Okay, I've got all my wires attached, the black, the yellow, and the red. Now my next job is, as you notice, I've got a kind of a mess here. I'm going to go through, and I'm going to start with the first color I did, the reds, and I'll pull each one tight and then put a drop of hot glue on it to hold it into place, and I'll just work my way around the center. Now the one problem I am going to have is once these are all in place, I'm going to have a huge wad of wires right there. And the problem I'm going to have with that is this connector here and these 3 here, once I get the hot glue on, are going to be blocked, which means later on down the line, if I ever need to take this bar off and replace it, I'm going to have a hell of a time getting the wires loose. But that's a job I'm going to have. That's something down the line I'm going to have to mess with. Okay, not the prettiest in the world, that's for dang sure. But she is done. I got my negatives, all, or neutrals, or grounds, as they want to call them, on 2 different buses, or rails. I got my 5 volt rail over here, and my 12 volt rail over here. And you can see the globs of hot glue I put on that, basically to hold them. I guess I could, if I wanted to make it look nice, I could fill this whole thing in with hot glue here, and that would definitely hold all the wires in. Over here, where all the wires were coming up and over, to help hold them into place, I coated it with a layer of hot glue to kind of help, like I said, hold it into place. And I'll still be able to get into that one there. And she does work. I'll show you some LED testing in another vlog using these. As I said earlier, I would like to thank Pat from Dead Things, and hall staff. And I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of your hall staff. But thank you for all your help, putting up with all my questions and everything. It really helped, when I went to do this. So anyway, thank you again to you guys. With that, I'm bringing this to a close. That's it all.